In the past, here's what I do when attempting to declutter. Step number 1, walk into a room, survey the damage. Step number 2, start picking up various things, looking at them, trying to decide if I want to keep them, if I want to donate them, if I want to give them to a friend, or if I want to toss them. Step number 3 is start a pile of stuff that I'm not sure what to do with, kind of like the maybe pile that quickly grows to the size of Mount Everest. Step number 4, get called away to something more pressing and leave the whole project feeling frustrated and defeated. If you can relate to this, you are not alone. I did a video a few months ago on decluttering methods that actually work, and I will leave that in the description box down below. But there are so many great decluttering methods out there, and I've really been wanting to do a part 2. So here it is. Method number 1 is the packing party. This is from the minimalists. I've really been getting into them lately. This is a method that's great if you really want to go drastic. A packing party involves basically exactly what it sounds like. You're packing up all of your stuff, emptying your room, you're emptying your apartment, you're emptying your house, essentially. Packing those things away. You're not getting rid of them, but you're putting them away in boxes, and then you are waiting and seeing as you live your life over the next weeks, the next month or two, what actually comes out of the boxes, what you actually use, what you actually need, and the things that you just don't even miss. Now, I will admit this is a really drastic approach. This is an approach that is hard for me to take because we have 3 little kids. Packing up our whole house in boxes is not practical unless we're actually moving. But there are smaller scale things you can do. So you can pack up a room. The minimal mom calls this hushing your house, meaning you basically pack up that room, pack up everything in it, and then you unpack again based on what you need. And you can just do it on a smaller scale, and so maybe it's not quite as daunting, but you can still get the same benefits. Or you can do your whole house. I mean, go big or go home, right? The second method is the 12-12-12 method, and this is from Joshua Becker, who has a blog called Becoming Minimalist, but he's written a lot of different books. He is awesome in the area of family minimalism, which if you were like us and trying to declutter with the reality of having a family and kids and all the chaos that goes with that, Joshua Becker really is awesome. So basically the 12-12-12 method is every single day you find 12 things to toss, 12 things to donate, and 12 things to put away. Now this can either sound really easy or really hard. It's easy because it's simple. When you first start doing it, it is pretty easy. You find stuff, there's just stuff that's laying around, you can easily declutter it, you can easily toss it or put things away. As time continues to go, it can get harder because all of the easy stuff is gone and you're having to make some decisions. But the beauty of this method, and what I love about it so much, is the consistency. You are going in with just consistently doing something every day to make the situation better, and you just keep doing it day after day after day. It keeps you in this mindset of decluttering, which I think is so key. Oftentimes, if you go with more the marathon style of decluttering, you can find that it's sort of like a crash diet where you go really extreme and really drastic, but then you have not set up long-term habits that enable you to keep your house decluttered. But with a method like this, where you're doing a little something every day, you really are putting yourself in that mindset. You're putting yourself in that habit that says every single day, I'm aware of what's in my home. I'm aware of what needs to leave my home. I'm aware of not bringing additional things into my home that I'm going to have to declutter later. For me, and especially in the season of life that I'm in, this method is super powerful. Plus, it makes decluttering not feel so overwhelming because, let's face it, we all can have enough overwhelming stuff in our day-to-day lives, which actually is a great lead into the sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. I'm a big fan of utilizing therapy when it feels like life is coming at you really fast and it's all just too much. I've used therapy myself at a critical juncture in my life after I graduated from college and had not really settled into a career yet, and I just was at a crossroads. I felt really stuck. I wasn't sure what direction I wanted to go and was just really struggling. And honestly, processing through a lot of those changes and transitions in therapy truly made such a difference for me. The truth is, you don't need to have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety to see wonderful benefits with therapy. And it's honestly a sign of strength to recognize when you need help and then take the initiative to get connected with that help. Now, we all know that therapy can be really costly, but there are affordable options available now, like online therapy platforms, which is where the sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp, comes in. BetterHelp is on a mission to make starting therapy easier. It is an easy-to-use online platform where therapists and their clients can communicate effectively and really get the most out of therapy. Starting therapy with BetterHelp is simple. Fill out a questionnaire and you will match with a therapist in as little as a couple days. If that first therapist doesn't fit, you can easily switch to another one until you find a therapist that you really connect with. You can start the process by clicking the link in my description or visiting betterhelp.com/a-flourishing place, where you can get a special discount off your first month. Next up is needs-based decluttering. I'm not sure if that's actually what this is called, but it's the name that I gave it. Instead of just starting in and picking up stuff, you are going in and looking, say the clothes in your dresser. You're trying to go through the clothes in your dresser. Instead of picking up each individual piece of clothing, you are pulling out immediately the stuff that you need, the stuff that you love. We all know the statistics are everywhere. The percentage of clothes that we actually wear in our closet versus the number of clothes we actually have in our closet is very different. We wear 20% of the stuff that's in there most of the time. And so what I have found very helpful for myself with my clothes and with kids' clothes, which can be incredibly overwhelming, is to go through and pull out what is needed. What do I need? What do I love? What do my kids need in their wardrobe? What do they love to wear? Over and over and over again. These are the things that I pull out and I keep, and then everything else goes. Now, the natural argument here might be,
but I love everything. How can I part with any of it?
Use the container method from Dana K. White, whether that is your dresser drawer or dividing containers that you have in there or the parameters of your closet, whatever you need for things to fit comfortably. I'm not trying to shove a dress in there when I'm done wearing it. So it's been so helpful for me to use those boundaries, to use those parameters. And then when I'm coming at it from a needs-based angle, it takes away that overwhelm and kind of that emotional drain that comes from trying to pick up each individual piece and decide, what do I want to do with this? I look at the needs, I look at the things that I absolutely love, I set those aside to keep, and then everything else goes. Now, you can declutter it right away, or you can pack it into boxes and you can wait a little while just to make sure that there's nothing that you really didn't mean to get rid of and you'd like to have back. But I pretty much guarantee it, at least this has been the case for me, once that stuff is gone, I do not miss it, and I love the space that I have gained by getting rid of all the extraneous stuff that I really didn't need. Next up is the onion method. I love this method and I'm actually in the midst of using it right now. Look, if you've talked to anybody that is on a journey towards minimalism, I haven't really wanted to admit that I am, but I kind of think I am. This is the process. It takes several passes of decluttering to get to a point where you are actually satisfied with the amount of stuff you've gotten rid of and with the way that your home feels. Most of the time, if you pressure yourself to get it all done in one take, you're not going to be successful. You need several passes of going through your house and decluttering layer after layer after layer. Now that may sound exhausting, but it also is giving you plenty of space to work through your things and to really take the time to declutter in a way that is going to make for lasting change. Plus, your perspective changes as you declutter. I don't know how this works, but it is true. There comes a point, at least for me, where it's like the floodgates open. You know, I will declutter, but only to this point and not past. But then it's like something gives. You make a decision and the floodgates open and you think, you know what? No, I can do more. If you have felt that before, it's amazing. Quick side story. For me, the floodgates opening type of moment was getting rid of a collection called Snow Village. Department 56 is the brand. They have a bunch of different like Christmas villages. The Snow Village was handed down to me from my grandmother, who passed away about a decade ago. I loved her very dearly. I was very close to her. I loved the Snow Village. My Grammy had it up even beyond just Christmas. She had it up in her house and it was just a very strong connection to her. But this village has a lot of pieces. The boxes are big. You kind of are packing boxes inside of a bigger box. It takes up a lot of space in the attic, and to set it up every year and take it down every year, it takes a lot of work. And I noticed actually when our kids were really little, like toddler stage, and I felt like I couldn't really safely have it up and I just left it in the attic that year, it was honestly kind of a relief not to bring it down and do all the work of setting it up and taking it down. But in the same breath, that was such a strong connection with my Grammy. And that was a thing that had always been off limits for me for decluttering. And Mom, if you're watching this video right now, you might want to turn it off. Why was I keeping the village? Why did I feel like I had to keep the village, even though deep in my heart I was like, I don't really enjoy storing the village. I don't enjoy setting up the village. I don't enjoy taking down the village. That's not the only connection that I had to my Grammy. I have tons of photos, tons of stories. She died when I was well into my 20s, and so I have many, many happy memories with my Grammy. It was not necessary for me to keep this village in order to hold on to her. I took all of the boxes, all of the buildings, took them out, and I chose one building to keep. I chose this house that has a really big bay window in the front, and inside you can see a little boy who got a black lab puppy for Christmas morning. And I kept that one because my Grammy loved dogs and she loved labs specifically. And so that house has a special connection. So I'm able to hold on to the dear memories of my Grammy having this village by keeping this one specific building that has a specific connection to her that I know and love. It was really hard at first. It was hard putting them in the car. It was hard taking them to the donation center. But as soon as they were gone, I felt such a lightness, such a freedom. I knew I had made the right decision. Now, you also might be asking, why did you donate them? Why a special collection like that? Why didn't you sell it? Sometimes we hold on to things because we think, oh, this is worth something. This is worth a lot of money. Well, guess what? Those were not worth a lot of money. They were a dime a dozen on Facebook Marketplace, on eBay. Everyone has them. They're easy to find. The time it would take for me to list those items, to connect with buyers, meet up with them, or to ship the buildings was completely not worth it. Sometimes owning up to the reality as well, if you're holding on to something because you think, oh, this is really going to be worth a lot of money at some point, the odds are that it's not. Obviously, you want to double check, make sure. But in the case of the snow village, that was just not the case. And so I parted with them by donating them. Anyway, that was a long story, but the whole idea is back to the onion method. It took me a long time to strip back the layers with decluttering to get to a point where I was okay with parting with something like the snow village. And it may take a while for you too, but the beauty of the onion method is you just keep stripping back. You just keep stripping back a little bit at a time. And sometimes it's just a little bit and it's just a small part, and sometimes it's a big layer. And like I said, the floodgates open and it's like, wow, I have a different perspective. And now I'm into a whole new layer and depth of decluttering because this block has kind of been removed and I'm ready to go deeper. The last one I wanted to talk about is Swedish death cleaning. Now, this one has been such a buzz term over the last few years, and it's really more of a mindset than a specific method. But the whole idea is basically just being mindful of what you own so that when you pass, your stuff is not a burden to other people. You have the power right now, while you still have breath in your lungs, to deal with things, to part with things, to give things away. None of us like to think about death, but it is a reality. It is coming. It has really helped me in working through decluttering in our home to look at things from that perspective. I'm planning to live until I'm 85, 92, and thankfully, hopefully, a lot of us will. But you never know at what age you're gonna pass, number one. And number two, I've reflected that honestly, it makes more sense to kind of Swedish death clean through the different seasons of your life, as opposed to waiting until the very last season of your life to death clean from your whole entire life. This is all I have, is this present time with my husband, with my children, with family, with friends. Not to get super philosophical, but I think that Swedish death cleaning really does get to the heart of decluttering and why it's important not to get hung up on belongings or spend all our time caring for belongings when we could be spending that time with people. So this method or this mindset is so crucial, and it's been a great one for me to have as I have been decluttering our home. There are so many great decluttering methods out there, and I have to say the best decluttering method for me always, the best decluttering method is the one that I will use. I would love to hear about other decluttering methods that you use, things that have worked for you. Happy decluttering, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.